Hello and welcome to part 3 in the Strength of Your Heart, Iridology, and Healing the Heart series that I am doing for you. This is Casey and thanks for being here. And so I have the third iris that I'm going, and I think this will be the final part of the iridology portion for now anyway. We're going to go into this iris in detail, looking specifically for indications of heart health and, common iridology markings that we may see in the eye. So we have the left eye, and I have already covered in detail the location of the heart itself. I did put as you can see, the iris chart up for your viewing pleasure. And yeah, let's just go ahead and get started. I'm going to map this iris out. And obviously this is an approximation. So, and I'm not even, I can't see a whole lot in the other part, the left part of the iris. So I'm not even going to go over there for now anyway. Yeah, there's too much of a reflection. All we're really going to be able to notice are the acute nerve rings. So let's see if we can locate the bowel wall. I do see a faint hint of a stomach halo right in here. Just barely, you can just kind of see that shading. And then the bowel wall is not easily detectable on that left side, maybe just a little bit, but I'm going to go ahead and map it out as well as I can see. And this is going to be an interesting eye to look at in terms of the heart, because we have a lot of lacuna on the inside of the bowel wall and not so much on the other side of the eye. So there's definitely a lot going on in the heart and lung and chest area. And this is where it's going to get a little bit tricky. And I'm actually just going to go ahead right now and erase my work. This would be a good time to highlight another example of what Jensen talked about, which is this, first of all, being very careful to delineate what is on the inside and the outside of the bowel wall. So we can see in this 3 o'clock area, and we're looking at right away, we have a lacuna on the outside of the bowel wall. So the bowel wall for sure is not extending outside of this line. The only thing I'm going to bring into question is this area right above the 3 o'clock. So let me draw this lacuna in. Darn it. Okay, draw this lacuna in. And then I want to show you this sort of delineation, or something to ponder in terms of the bowel wall. So we have the outside of the bowel wall being very likely, it's not going to extend, again, it's not going to extend outside of this line right here. But we also have another, like a trapezoid. And what this could indicate, so anything on the inside of the bowel wall, again, is going to be in the digestive system, in this case, the descending colon. So we know this is you know, anything on the inside of that wall is within the digestive system. So there could be, what I'm seeing is a lot of bowel pocketing and just general trouble in the bowel itself in this area of the body or the iris. But we're also seeing a shape of what Jensen described as that trapezoid lacuna in this area here. And that would be very close to obviously the heart and more like the aorta. So that is either a sign of another sign of weakness within the heart area, according to Jensen, that trapezoid lacuna within the autonomic nerve wreath. And I think that's a good example of how that might look. So it's basically a separation and then coming back together in the autonomic nerve wreath. And it's also a good example of how it's important when you look for trouble to differentiate between what's going on inside the digestive system and outside of the digestive system, which is going to be the heart, that you do make a careful observation of where the bowel wall is, or the autonomic nerve wreath. Okay, so like I said, there's a lot going on in that whole descending colon area. So we have various lacuna, could indicate pocketing or just digestive disturbance in the area. And I'm glad we're seeing this, because this is another one thing that I haven't talked about yet. I think I'm sure I've mentioned it, but I don't think I've noted it in either of the other irises, which is, and Jensen, Dorothy Hall, Farida Sharon, Joseph Deck, all of the iridologists talk about how the health of the bowel can affect the heart. And Dorothy Hall specifically talks about how, and we know this, you can have symptoms of dis-ease or even sudden occurrences within the heart, and that can be absolutely related to the digestive system. And then Jensen also talks specifically about trouble in the breast area. So I want to note that chest and breast area, which would be, so we have, and again, this is the picture chart based off of Jensen's chart, which is a little bit more, I mean, it's more of a chart and less of a picture. So it's a little bit more specific. So you're welcome to grab that and have that as well. But we have the lungs, the pleura, the thorax, the ribs, the bronchioles, all on the outside of the bowel wall. So this whole area between, 2 o'clock and 4 o'clock on the outside of the bowel wall, which is here. Again, I'm going to retrace this. And so anything outside that bowel wall is going to be the lungs, ribs, and all that. So we have the arm and hand at 4 o'clock, and then we have the spleen below that. And then above that, in this area, we have the ribs. And then above that, we have the breast area. And then above that, we have the thorax. So it's just kind of breaking down more specifically the anatomy. So in the breast area, right in here, Jensen talks about seeing, case studies of women who have had lumps in their breast and having it related to the inside of the bowel wall and trouble within the digestive system. And he talks about after he's cleared that up through purification, how those breast lumps have resolved themselves. So we have heart issues, we have breast health, we have lung health, we have all of these things being seen in this area between 2 and 4 o'clock. And what we're seeing in this eye in particular, and you will see this quite a lot, is that there are disturbances within the digestive system that are related to these areas that we're seeing outside of the digestive system. Okay, so what else are we seeing in this iris? I want to look again at this full. So we see the lacuna in the 3 o'clock, the heart area. And then we also see above that, and this looks to be, fairly chronic. And then we also see another area outside the bowel wall that has a dark lacuna. And just in general, the fibers are a little bit different in that area. So this whole area. And so that would be still in the lung area. I would definitely consider that to be the lungs. So we do have some weakness in that lung area showing up in the form of a lacuna and some sort of wavy iris fibers. And then, of course, we are seeing throughout the iris, but especially between the 2 and 3 o'clock, we see these interesting nerve rings. And the nerve rings in this area, you can see they sort of change a little bit. I mean, they're not usually perfect nerve rings, but they do change and alter a little bit right in that heart area. And these look to be like fairly acute nerve rings, being that they're more bright and white, less indented. Okay, and then we also have a fairly pronounced weakness in the skin. So this is all stuff that we did talk about the skin already, and we've talked about just like seeing anything different in the heart area that will indicate weakness. So lacunas, we saw the psora or pigmentation on in the last video. And then we've seen some nerve rings. I've seen some medulla. I know it was in that first brown iris that we did, and I don't know if I wrote that in, but you're also going to be looking for medulla. And medulla being, right around, well, at 1 o'clock. And just because I just traced out this mapping, you can see a little bit of darkness in the medulla area around 1 o'clock. A possible radii solaris, just faintly. And then, yeah, back to the skin ring. And again, we have this weakness in the skin and indicating weakness also in the circulatory system. And it also, we're seeing in this eye is right outside the heart and lung area. So everything is sort of going in alignment. I can't really see the thyroid, the health of the thyroid, but that will come up a lot. And then we have a somewhat of a pronounced weakness in the adrenal and kidney area. So we have thyny foot here at 6 o'clock. I would say this whole area, and then we have this little radii solaris starting in the stomach area and then a little bit of shading in the kidney area. So definitely something to consider with the adrenal and the kidney, nothing huge. Okay, so I think that's it for this eye in terms of the heart. And I want to show you what I'm going to be talking about in the next video. We're going to be talking about how to heal different disorders or imbalances seen in the heart area. And so we're going to be talking about plants. And there's a couple things that I want to be covering leading up to this, or at least around this topic, which is, one is the golden mean. I have mentioned that, but the geometry and well, starting with the Fibonacci sequence and then going into the golden mean, and then seeing the dimensions of the heart as they are related to the golden mean. And I can cover that in just a few minutes, but I do want to talk about that just briefly as we're going into the botanicals, because we're looking here at Rosa, the botanical family that is born for the heart. And also the rose plant has a great, well, the golden mean can also be seen in the rose. So we're going to be seeing how the vibrational structure, the form of things is reflecting their function. So we're looking at the rose plant as the main plant that is used in heart medicine in terms of herbs, and it's a pretty common plant to use. You will hear quite often of hawthorn. So we're going to talk about hawthorn, which is a member of this family, and you can see hawthorn, the berry up here in the right upper corner. So we have hawthorn berry, and we have rose hip in center here, rose hip, and they're very similar, and they also really do also visually represent or have, you know, similarities to the heart. And then we're also going to be talking about, when we look at the different herbs and methods of working with botanical medicine, we're going to be looking at how we might, you know, really address specifically different things in the iris. So when we look at this eye, for instance, I am going to cover some different heart formulas and let you guys know like what basic plants you can be recommending and using. But also it's going to be important to understand that you're going to be addressing with other herbs, other areas of weakness found in the circulatory system or the glandular system, or, you know, the kidneys, the head and brain, the medulla, that sort of thing. So we'll be talking about that soon. And until next time, take good care. Bye.